be live again. Uh, Let me check on the viewers one more time. There was a major power cut at my place just a while back, so that is why we were having some issues with the connection. I guess the stream would have ended rather abruptly. So let us see how we can deal with this contingency, because this is something that will happen in many of our streams going forward again. That could happen at any point in time, that our power goes off while we are in the middle of presenting something, or just like now doing a live stream. So I'll just wait for a moment till I get our viewers back, and then I'll just see. I'll just tweet about it. Here we are again. Sorry for that. There was a major power cut here at where I live, so I could not have prepared for that contingency. I have an UPS set up, but I don't have an inverter to go along with it, and my internet just went down for a couple of minutes, and I guess it has been more than a couple of minutes. But let us just digress and get going. We should not uh, digress from what we were doing in the what we were doing originally. So at this part where we left was, we just executed this command, the yarn create strapi app backend, and that created a strapi application in the backend folder. We navigated to the backend folder, and then we ran this yarn strapi install graphql command to install the graphql ql plugin into that strapi project. And then they are asking us to execute the strapi dev command and start our strapi server, create our first administrator user. So we will do that. We will get started with strapi dev. And is there a script for that already? Let me check the package.json file. So yes, so we can do yarn develop to start our development server for strapi, and that has started up a news. This It led us to this page where we have to set up strapi if you're doing it for the first time. So we will fill up this information, whatever it is asking us to provide. So it is asking for my first name, so I'll do that. Last name, I'll do that. I'll put up my email. So if you're a regular viewer, you already know my email, that it is this. I'll create this password only that Chrome is suggesting me, and I'll not check that keep me informed checkbox, but here we are. So it has saved my password. So here we are at the strapi dashboard, and if you look at it, it is a content management system, but it is quite different from straight away it is different from WordPress. That is also a content management system, but here you can create your own custom content types. Like if you would have to have some more metadata about your content, you can do that. You can define the entire structure of the content that you would like to manage. So let us see where our viewers are at the moment, because the stream was interrupted for quite a couple of minutes. So we still have one viewer, so that is great because they did manage to join the stream again. So they are using a proper password. Okay, they are asking us to use a proper password. We have to do that. So Strapi is now running on this port, and this Strapi instance is now ready. And we have to now create a next application, that is the front end. So our backend is ready to go. So our this Strapi instance will provide us the data of whatever we have to use, and we can use that in our front end. So we have to create a front end application now. So they are asking us to create a Next front end server by following along this tutorial now. They are now going into the front end folder. We are currently in the backend folder, I guess. Yes, we are currently in the backend folder. So let me just create a new terminal window, and I'll just navigate to that. So I am in my blog, and our blog is in the blog Strapi folder. So I'll navigate to that. We have a backend folder. I'll create a front end folder now. And, or rather, I should not have created that front end folder. Next will do that for us, if I can spell that correctly. So we can create a Next application without installing the Next global CLI using this command yarn create Next app front end. So now it is fetching all the dependencies and creating our next application. It is asking us for the project name. So I'll say that my project name is something unique. So I'll say it is my blog. Programming language will be JavaScript. I could have used TypeScript, but I'll go with JavaScript right now. And I am using the yarn package manager, and then it is asking uh, us to use a CSS framework. So I'll check up a few options that it provides us. So there are a lot of options here, as I am seeing right now. I'll go ahead with Tailwind, but let me just check whatever that there is. Okay, I think that is enough for now. Let us just go with Tailwind. And how do we want to set that up? So we will be using Apollo, but that is not what I am seeing right now. So we have to use the documentation if you want, but let us just use it as with the Axios HTTP client, and let us use the ESLint and Prettier extensions to format our code, and that is it, I guess. And for the testing framework, I'll not be covering testing in this live stream. And then let us go with universal rendering, and that will be a server hosting, and jsconfig.json. We can do that. We can do a dependabot, but let's just go with this only. And for continuous integration, for CI/CD, I'll not choose anything right now. Version control system will be Git, and let us create a front end application with this next create next app package. And once it is doing that, it once the installation will be over, then we can start our front end application. So then let us go ahead with this tutorial. What they are asking us to do, we have to now set up Apollo. That will be the client that we will use to uh, interact with our GraphQL API that Strapi will provide us. So for the Apollo setup, we have to add this to the front end part of the project. So I will go ahead, navigate to the front end folder, and we will execute this command that we will add the Next.js Apollo library and the GraphQL library. So while that is running, let us see what next we have to do. Module and Apollo settings will be referenced in this file called the configuration file for Next. So here is how we do that. That is how they're asking us to do and asking us to set that up. So we will take a look at it once the installation is completed. So installation has now completed. So let me open up Visual Studio Code in this folder and we will see. So now we have this next.config.js file in our folder, and let us see what they are asking us to do. So below the modules, in the modules, we have to add the Apollo module. So we will do that like this: next.js/Apollo. And once we are done with that, we have to have an Apollo configuration. So we will create an Apollo object in this JS file. So Apollo, and in this object, what do we have? Let me add a trailing comma here so it will not complain. So we have to create some client configurations. So client configs, and that will be another object that will have some default configuration, and that will have the HTTP endpoint, that is the endpoint for the GraphQL API. I guess it will be, yes, they are asking us to provide this. Otherwise, if there is a GraphQL, a backend API URL already, we can use that and fetch from the environment variables like this process.env.backend_URL. Or if that is a falsy value, then this will work. So that is for that is that part. So we are done with up to this part of the tutorial, and now no need to install the no need of the GraphQL plugin install, since we already did in backend setup. So okay, so we do not need to set up GraphQL right now because we already did that in the backend part of our project. So we now need an environment variable for the base URL. So we have to have an environment file. So at the top of the next.js, we will just create an environment object, and let us see what do we have to provide in that. We have to provide the strappy base URL, and that will be process.env.strappy URL, or API URL more so. And if it is a falsy value, then we will take on this other URL that they are asking us to provide. It is this is the URL for the instance of the strappy that we set up right now. So that is done. So they are using UIKit, but we are using Tailwind, so I guess that will not be a problem. I do not see a Tailwind CSS file here though. Have they configured that? I guess yes, it is using the Tailwind CSS module. Anyway, we will just for the consistency and for this tutorial, let us just go ahead and add UIKit also, and I'll remove the Tailwind CSS part from it. We could have just gone ahead and with no front end framework, but it is okay. If we did not have that power cut, we would not have taken this route. I would explore more into the Tailwind CSS. So let us just add this UIKit dependency. So I'll add UIKit to my front end application, and then we have to create a plugins because we are using this. So in the plugins folder, we will create a new file called uikit.js, uikit.js, and in this file, what do you have to provide? We have to import view and UIKit and some icons from the UIKit library, and we have to register that with view. So let us do that quickly. Import view from view. Once that is done, we can import UI kit and icons. UI kit from, what is the path? UI kit distribution CSS. And what do we have then? No, they are using the JavaScript folder and UI kit core, and we can import the icons as well while we are at it. So we will import the icons. So it is now complaining because we have not yet used whatever we have imported. So let us just use those things. So we will say that uikit dot use the icons. So we will register the icons with uikit first, and then we will register uikit with view. So they are asking us to do this. So the uikit container will be this pattern right here, this pound double underscore next. Double underscore next. So once we have done that, let us go ahead and register this with the view prototype. So whenever we access the UI kit using this symbol, we will have access to the UI kit itself. So once we have done that, we now need to register this with the next the CSS files and this plugin itself. So let me just see what we need to do with that piece of information. So in the CSS, in the global CSS configuration, we will add these three CSS files. So let me just copy it at this point and then paste it here. So we have these three CSS files that we need in our application for the front end, and for the plugins we will need to use this UI kit for using the UI kit library. So let us configure it that way, and now they are creating a main.css file because we just included that in our next configuration. So we need the main.css file. And where is that hosted? So it is in the static folder, I guess. So this static folder will be there in the static, yes, it will be in the static folder or in the assets. What are they using? They're using assets. So in the assets folder, we will create a new folder called CSS, and let us say we create a main.css file here, and we will put this styling into that file here. So in this this style sheet, what we are basically styling some of the elements and using IDs to style some of the elements, and they are also adding a new font from the Google font library. And what it will eventually do is it will create a link tag in the header and refer that as a style sheet and load that whenever our application runs, the front end application runs. So we will add this to the link part. So I will put this on the next line, and they are importing the start leashes font family. So we are good with that. Now we have to restart our server. Did we start our server at this any point? This time we did not. So let us take a look. How can we start a server? We will take a look at the package.json file. So we have a couple of scripts. I will just do yarn dev then. So it has now started up the next development server. So it is building some of the files. The server had some errors, and there are some errors already. So there are a few errors. in the CS on the UIKit CSS file. So let us see what it is talking about. It is using the Post CSS custom properties. So it has something to do with Post CSS. Let us see what are we going to do here. Let us take a look at what is actually happening. So this error will mean it is trying to use the Post CSS library to parse something, and it is not able to do so when we included this in the CSS part. Can we disable Post CSS? Let us see. Next, disable Post CSS. So what it is essentially trying to do is it is trying to parse it with Post CSS, and it is failing because it is not is in the correct format. What it is trying, what it is expecting, it is expecting the Post CSS format. Okay, so let us see what is happening. I'm pretty sure we provided it as a CSS property. So yes, it is on the client JS, but that is not what we. So even the client had some errors. So that is interesting to see. Okay. Did someone else encounter this error? Let me just copy this and paste it, and if there is something on the Stack Overflow, or there is not. Okay, this was interesting. We cannot add UIKit, but let me just go ahead with it because that is something about the styling. We can skip styling for now if we have to do that. It is fine for us if we skip the styling part. Or let me just disable Tailwind and just re-enable it again if that does some wonders. Let us see what happens if I disable Tailwind. Yes, now it has compiled successfully. So Tailwind was interfering with the UI kit, with the setup of UI kit. I probably should have disabled, not selected Tailwind while I was starting if I was planning to go ahead with this tutorial only. So that, oops. So we have now restarted our server, and let us take a look at it. So this is the my blog. This is the starter application that Nuxt generated for us. So we will build on top of this and create our own blog. This is the front end for our blog. The backend is Strapi, and that is ready to go. And we have a front end Nuxt.js that is set up. Now we just need both of them to talk to each other. So let us do that now. So let me refresh my Twitch page again to see where I am right now. So okay, we are live. So the internet is working. So for the data structure, we have to create an article content type. Let me reload this once again because there was some internet issues. So that is why all of the images did not load correctly. So for designing the data structure, we have to create an article content type, and they are using the following content. These are the following properties that they are using for that content type. So I will say that the display name will be article, and let us see, they are using article in the small in the lowercase, so we will go ahead with that, and let's click on continue. and then they have a text field, a required text field. This is a required field, so we'll click that. We will call it title, and then let us say that okay, that is fine for us. Let us go ahead and add another field. So then we have content with rich text. So let us name this content and go to advanced settings. This will be a required field. Add another field. Image, this will be the cover image, and that will also be required. Let us say media, single media. This will be required, so we will only accept images. And let us say the name for this property will be image. This field will be image only. And then there is a published at. So for published at, we will do a date required. So let us click on date. Published at, type will be date, and let us do that date time, and it will be a required field. So they are then asking us to save, and then the content type will be created. So let us click on finish, and then it will go ahead and create that content type for us. So at this point, what is happening is that it should be doing this for us, or is something else happening? Why is it not working? Okay, so it had already created it, I guess. No, these are the collection types, but is there any new collection type? No, it did not add that, so we will have to create that from scratch again. Then they created a users collection type, but they did not create the article one that we were working on. So let us create an article again. Let me zoom in a bit. The article, okay, we are okay with that. There should be a text, that should be title, and that should be required. Let us click on create finish. Okay, that now works. We can add another field to this. Let us say this is content, and this will no, this will be a rich text field called content, and it will be also required. We click on finish. There will be an image, single media, only image. This will be required. Let us call it image. Click on finish. Then let us create another date that was published at. This will be a date time, and this will also be a required field. And let us click on finish. Okay, so it is already breaking another thing. So publish date. Let us create it as a date only then. So we'll click on finish, and we will then click on save. So that is all they wanted us to do. So it is now restarting the server, and it has now restarted. So now we see this article. This is a new collection type. This is the content that we can manage now. So we have to grant access to this new article content type. So we'll go to settings, roles and permissions. We have a public role. Is there a public role? No, there is no public role. So uh find one and find root we will have to do. Okay, we have reached a limit. Okay, no. Here is so user and permissions plugin. It is down here. It is for the admin panel. That rule was for the admin panel. The user and permissions plugin has this roles thing again. So uh for the public role, we will have find and find one. We will enable that for this content type for article, and then we can fetch it on the GraphQL Playground. Okay, so we will say that for find, this will be the API. If we are using Axios to fetch all our articles, then we can use all of these API endpoints. But we will then just go ahead and click save. So public has the permissions to find and find all the articles or find one article. So now let us create a new article. Then I will add a new article, name it best article ever, content, we are doing great. And for the image, we have to add an asset. Let us go to Unsplash and grab a image. So we will use this image, grab an URL for this, and I'll put it here, and this is the URI. So I'll upload this and click on finish, and our published date will be let's say 1st of April 2021, and that is all there is. We can click on save, and that has been saved. So there is this best article ever, like content management system. We can have this blog article. So we have this best article ever. This is a instance. This is a tuple in of article type. This is of the article types. It has image, a published date, content, and title. So all of what any blog post would have been. So there is this unpublished and published thing also. So we can have a draft blog posts and all. So we can have that feature. So there is also this Strapi. This is the REST endpoint that this is the HTTP API endpoint. So we have all of this information here for that article. So that localhost port 1337 slash articles, we already have all of the information that we need for our front end, but we are using GraphQL today. So let us go to the GraphQL playground of Strapi. So we can have something like what have they suggested. So we can query for articles and get all of the article information. So we will query for articles, and for each article we will get the title, content, and the image URL. So let us do something like this article, and we will get the title first. Let us run it. ID was not provided. Okay, a type ID is required. Did we set up an ID for this? Okay, we have an ID. Otherwise we can just provide all of this information, I guess. Or let us see how do we GraphQL query all. Let us search for that. How do we do that? GraphQL query for all. fields. So in the GraphQL documentation, we can see that we can provide an ID like this. So we'll go ahead and do something like that. And there is our data for that ID, that best article ever that we have with us. We have the content. We can get that content data also. So GraphQL allows us to fetch those parts of the data that we actually need, rather than querying for the entire data at once. So we can have this published date as well, published at, and published, we did it as published date, but it added published at already. I guess it is inherent, it is created by default. So we will also, we can also do the image preview URL or URL. So we have that URL, it has uploaded it, and then given us the URL. So also we can also create categories to our blog posts, so we can do that. So we will go ahead and do whatever they are asking us to do. We'll go ahead to Strapi and create a new content type. Let us create a new collection type. Let us call it categories. The category content type will have a name. Let me move this over to this tab, and let us say that it has a name, and that is required. And we will click on save. That is all there is for the category. And in the article content type, we have to have a relation that a category has many categories. A category has many articles, so we have to define a one to many, and a many to so this will be many to many, I guess. This should be many to many. Anyway, we will add a relation. How do we add a relation? So an article category, article has category also. Okay, we let us click on category. Article has many categories, let us say that only. Our category has many articles. Where are they adding this? In the article content. So they are using this, that category has many articles. So particular category will, the category will be the owner, and this will be the child. So let us click on finish. And we have to do the role, we have to allow the anyone to get the category information as well. So we have to go to settings, go to the roles tab, and also do find and find one for the public users. So now we can select a category for our article. Let us go to article and select a new category for this. So there is no category, so let us create a default category first. So we will create a new category, let's say news, and we'll save this. Go to article and apply the news category to this article. So we have this now. So it has the category of news. So that is great. And the category, we have this, and this news category has one article at this point in time. So now let us work on the front end part. So we have some basic data that is there on our backend Strapi, and now let us work on the front end part. So if we first create the layout of the application, they are using a view template. So let us modify that. So we will open up the front end here, and there we have it. So in the layouts default.view, what are they changing? So they are creating using the UI kit CSS library to create a nav bar, and then this is the right part of that nav bar, and they have a modal for that for the image uh, of the image that we uploaded for the blog post, and then they have this thing going on. So let me, at this point, let us just copy and paste it, whatever we have in this tutorial, and let us see where we end up. Two code blocks are commented here, and we have to write a query first to be able to do that. So let us, at this point, we have this strappy blog, and there is this strappy blog navigation. That is cool. Already we have something in our hand already. So this is one part. That was only that view template that we edited. So now we have to create a query. So we will create a Apollo queries category folder. So let us do something like this. Apollo queries category folder we have created, and we have to create a category.qgl, that is a query language. Categories.qgl. Not QGL, it is GQL, GraphQL query. So in this, we have to provide the following code. So a query for all categories and for its name and ID. So let us go to the playground as well. We do something like this, and it will provide us the categories. So there are no categories at this point in time. What is happening? Or articles, do we have something like this ID? We have the category for that, right? Or okay, it is not published, so that is why it was not telling us about that. But anyway, if we now a query for categories, we now have the category of news right here. And for the article, if we run this query again, we have this thing going on. So that is great. We have something categories. We can query for categories. We will provide this in the categories.gql file. We have done that, and then we can uncomment the comments and replace the script tag in the default file. Okay, so now we can uncomment this line right here. We'll go ahead and uncomment that, and we'll also go ahead and uncomment this part. And in the script part, we have to import one file, and we have to do this. So we will import that categories query. Import categories query from. We will import that GraphQL file. Let's say from Apollo, and go to queries category, and we also have this categories. We have to provide the full path to it. So categories. Once we import that, we have to use that. So we will have a uh, data method here that this is view. So we define the initial state as return, as this will be the initial state whatever we provide here. So categories, there will be no categories when we first load the application. It will fetch for the categories from the Trapi. Now let us go to Apollo. This will um define what Apollo will do with the categories data type. So we will prefetch all the categories by setting prefetch is equals to true, and then for the query we'll have what query to run. We will run the categories query. So that is all there is at this point, and it is uh, we know that the code is not suited to display a lot of categories. So why they are telling that, we will take a look at it. So it is saying that in the default view we have some errors in this, so we need a key object, a key property here, otherwise this will be a problem. Category.id will be the key. Let us say, how do we define that? So the key will be category.id. Can we do that? Do we have access to this? So they expect to have the vbind key attribute, so we did provide a key. Let us see in the Vue.js documentation how do we do that. Vue.js v for key, not b for, it will be v for the list rendering. The key could be, it needs a key, I guess. So the vbind key attribute, we will have to use that instead of this right here. We will have to use a vbind key, will be the category dot id. Vbind key is category dot id. And does that solve our issue? It solves one of the issues. Then let's solve the other issue as well. And I guess it is the same problem. Now you have to just reload. So now we have this news. So that is fine that we did not create any other page, but we have news in the nav bar. And if we do this, so we have a news category. I guess it is displaying all the categories on the nav bar. So that is great. We already have something going on. The links will not work because we have not created the other pages. Now we create the articles component, a view component. We will create a view component for all the different posts. So let us create article dot view, and we will paste the starter code that they have provided. What it essentially does right here, we will walk through it. So here we have another thing, like this is also a vbind key attribute, I guess. We can omit this key, the vbind part, because it will be clear from the context itself. Yes, it is clear from the context that it is what we are talking about. We cannot find the article because there is no article query. So let me just copy this. I'll delete this for now, and just let's just reload what happened. So the component did not load, and that is fine for us because we did not we deleted that component right now, right? So let me just reload this. Front end application. Post Css did nothing. We are fine with that. So yes, so this was the part. We are here now. We have to create an article component that this template is getting all the categories also from the GraphQL API, so that is okay. So here again, we are setting the API URL to be the Strapi base URI that we defined in the next config.js file. So we defined it as base URL, and we will make that change here. And then it is also setting that the articles should be an array. These are the component properties, and the state is the API URL will be from the process.env object itself, and they are making some computation about what articles to show on the left and right side of the. I guess there is a divider here. So there are they are dividing the screen into a few parts, and this is a grid. So they will be having a few children within this. So okay, this is fine for us. So what are they saying? That we should go above the category, and this should go above the class, even above 2. That is fine. Let us move this over so it will not complain. So we have to now create this article query. We will create that. Let us in the queries folder, let us create a new folder called article. We will. What happened right now? Let me just reload Visual Studio Code here. I guess I have to reload this Visual Studio Code. Dependency not found. That is fine with us because we did not create it. But let me just reload Visual Studio Code, and I'll restart this. In the queries folder, we will create a new article folder, and we will have a articles.graphql query. And in articles, we will say query articles, and it will have the articles ID, the title, the content, the image, URL, whatever we saw on the GraphQL Playground. And then we can also have the published at or published date. So this is fine for us. It cannot find a module we had created after the fact, so we can have that. So this is the GraphQL file that they have created. We can also put the category here, because now we have the category as a field inside that content type. So we will get the category name also. Now we can create the main page. So let us reload this. We have this article dot articles, and this is taking it from there only. So let us see. From right articles, left articles, it will just accept the articles from the component above it, I guess. The page could not be found. That is okay. We have not set up the routes or anything. That is fine for us at this point. So let us create an index.view file that imports that articles component. That was a component that we created. We are not actually displaying that anywhere. So we can create a new page now. In the index.view, we will replace this with this code. So what it will do is it will import that article component, and it will display articles for all the articles that it uh, gets from the GraphQL endpoint. So I'll name it as my blog. So it will prefetch all the articles and then return the variable. If there is a we are searching for a particular article, it will then show it. So now we can go ahead to this blog. So it cannot find the module articles because that was created after the fact. We have to restart our server whenever we add a different component. So this component articles was not found. So let us see what went wrong. So we have mistyped our component name. So this is article, and we can just remove this part here. So we now have this. We should now have this my blog, and this is our article, and this is the front page for our application. No other page will work, but our front page is definitely working. That the best article ever from the news category is showing up, and the correct image is also showing. So that is great. We have created some part of the blog. So if you have been following along, this is really different from what it is to create a blog on WordPress or something like that. Here you are defining the exact how you want your front end of your blog to look, because this is just HTML. You have access to all the business logic that is happening here. If you were using a WordPress theme, then you would have to you are somewhat restrained, in my opinion, with what you can do there, because you don't have the access to build something from the ground up, and you are also limited by some of the opinionated options that WordPress provides. But here you also have your own flexibility of doing these things. So I like this approach over that. So it is showing us some errors right here because it is apparently not able to find this query, but we know that it exists. So we will not worry about that at this point. So for the articles page, they have this other template. Uh, so here for the Apollo query, they are searching for all the articles, and they're also requiring the moment.js. We have not installed moment.js. That is a library required for displaying formatted time and date. So we will take a look at that, how it handles that. So in the pages articles folder, we can create so we have a pages articles folder, and inside that we create a underscore id.view file. What it will do is, whenever we have an article with some id, it will get the parameter from that. So we have the id from this parameter itself, and we don't have moment because we have not installed moment.js at this point. Or have we? So it is already installed, I guess, with the Next.js. So that is why it is using that. So expected property shorthand. So we will just do something like this. This is possible with the latest JavaScript version. So this is a shorthand. If you have a same name for the property and its value, you can do this. So it is importing that article query from this GraphQL query here. This is articles, and we have this we have to have a single article, so we have to have a different query altogether for that. Let me go ahead and create another query that was for all the articles, and this will be for a single article. So this will be the our query. It will query for all the article objects given a id, and it will fetch all of these fields from that GraphQL endpoint. And then if we just reload this and go to this page, then we can see that we are doing great is printed on April 2nd, 2021. So we are doing great was the content, so it has grabbed something. So but the other parts are not showing. We will have a look at that, why it is happening. So something wrong here. So there are all the content that there is right now, it is according to them, this should be what it is happening, what is happening. So if there is a article image object, then this image should be at the center of the screen, and the article title should be displayed under that on in that article page, and this month, date and year should be also displayed at the bottom of the page. So if we just reload this again and go to news, no, for in this particular page for one, so there is this best article ever. I think some of the resource is not being able to, so the API URL is undefined, I guess, because it is URI and not URL. So if we change that and reload, it should be able to do it. But okay, let me just reload the entire application, and that should take care of this change here. So now we have it. So this best article ever is now our blog post. This is the heading, the title for our blog post. We have the image for our blog post, and the content is going right here. Let me go to Lipsum generator and just get some lorem ipsum text. Let me generate 5 paragraphs of it. Let me just copy it from here, and let me just paste in one of the articles, and let me click on save, and then we will reload it. So you can see that now that content is we just went to the Strappy dashboard and just edited this content, and we created this separate front end application for our blog, and all the changes are now live here also. So great job till here, we can say that to ourselves. So now it is saying that we can use markdown to provide some styling to our blog posts. So we will do that, but first let us create a categories folder and create a content for category. So there is this client only tag here. This client only tag will mean this will not be server rendered, and this part will be only this will not be server rendered, this will be dynamic, and this will happen on the Vue.js part on the client browser itself. So it is demarcating that this part of the code should not be handled by the Vue.js universal. It is like server rendering. Server, whenever you make a request, the server decides whatever it is to be displayed, and then puts it into the code, and then sends it back to the browser. And if we have the content client only tag, then this logic should be figured out by the client side itself. So that is why we have that. So we will create this pages categories folder, and we'll create an underscore id.view file right here, and we'll put this code in, and let us make this change. And there we have it. This is that art categories page. This is the code for that, and we do not have this query yet, so we'll create this query, articles categories dot GraphQL. So what is the GraphQL query that they are talking about right here? So this will be the GraphQL query for it. Let us go over it. So first it will it is we are searching for category, for a particular category by given by id, then we will get that name. And up to this part, this would have been like similar to what we wanted. Like if we wanted different categories, it is fine, we have the name of the category when we added it for the first time and we played with it in the GraphQL Playground. But now what we have is an article object also that we want from the GraphQL endpoint, that for each category, because the category has many articles, so we can have the reference to that and it will give us all the articles that are referenced to this category. So from within that we can get that, and for each article object also we will get a different category with its name itself. So we will have this for the categories, and then let us take a look at our application and let us go to our category. So in the news category we have this one blog post right here. So this is the category page. We can create a couple of more categories and let us take a look at it. So this was news, and let us create another category. So let us name it as song. So we will publish this category, create a new article, best song ever. Let us go to Unsplash and search. We will use this text again and go to unsplash.com for another, let's say, what do we call it, another image. Let us take this image this time and let us copy this image address and let us go here to Shopee. This image will be from add more assets from URL. This will be the URL. It can upload that and we'll click on finish. The published date will be 2nd April, and for category we will choose songs and click on save. So now let us go to our blog, and if we refresh we have a songs category, but at this point it does not have any song listed because we did not publish this blog post. So if we publish that, we have the songs, and we go to this, we have this another blog post showing up right here, and there is this content. So we are doing great with our categories and our let's say with our categories and blog posts. We are doing with that, so we can navigate through the categories. And here we reached at the GIF again. So we created our own blog application that can display the content that we provided through the Strappy dashboard. Let me clear out all of the things, and the only things that we are left with now is this front end application for our blog, and this is the backend for that. So we can host this backend anywhere, and as long as this backend is running, we can have this front end also running simultaneously, and it can navigate talk to each other. This front end is talking to the Shopee backend through the GraphQL endpoint and fetching all of this information, that this best song ever, this is one article, and the best article ever is another news article. So that was up a blog application, and now you can if you take a tutorial in Vue and read some documentation and search for some other videos like uh, Traversy Media, even Praveen. Praveen is making some awesome videos. You can take a look at that, and you have some resources at your perusal. You can take a look at how Vue.js works and how Nuxt works, and you can spice up your front end to look more awesome than this. You can the sky is the limit right here. So for the local hack day challenge, what we went over today was this create a personal blog, and once you have created this personal blog, you can host it somewhere on Linode or uh, any other hosting provider. You can even host it on your, because you have to share the URL on the day 5 form that there is. This is the day 5 form, so you have to submit a personal blog like this. So that was it for this stream. We talked about some of the events that are going on. Like I said, we are having a guild cross guild video thing with EddieHub, and there was also this developer this voice chat that we had with the Hackon organization, organizers of the Hackon hackathon. Uh, that was also great to have. We met some awesome people right here, right there, like Siddharth, Aditya Oberoi, and Kushi Sharma from Equicode and MLH, respectively. And that was the event part. Then we took a look at some of the different challenge submissions that I did, and after that we created this blog using Next.js and Strapi. We had some intermittent issues with connection because my power went down in the middle of the stream, but we have counted that, and we have gone ahead with the stream and completed what was on our plate for tonight. So it is 3:18 a.m. right now. I need to catch some sleep, and I'll see you again. And if someone is still watching the stream, thank you for following and supporting me when I am doing the stream. I'll give a shout out to you if you leave your socials on the chat, and I'll take a look at it. I can be reached on Twitter at Scientific Ghosh, and I am there on Twitch at Sudipto G Codes, and even I have a YouTube channel where all of these recordings will be archived for later purposes. So that is about that. So let me play some music while I switch some OBS scenes and call it a day. So I'll just switch the OBS scene right here. Still getting still new to all this. So, but here it is. Good night.